In this video, we're going to see how we can import a 3D model in Substance 3D Painter, and we can start to paint on that, not using just the file that we have in Substance, but what format we can use, and also which website we can use where we can get objects, materials, and so on. And we're going to continue to talk about the basics of Substance Painter. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is just change quickly the settings to English and then restart with a new document. So I'm gonna just avoid to save the file and restart with a new document in English. Now we already created a scene in the previous lesson where we use a template file given us by Substance 3D, and we started to talk about navigation, how we can like understand the interface and the various panels, and we're gonna go more into depth with this later on. Now, one thing you want to notice is that this is a 3D space and it has epsilon, x, and z axis, and right here we have u and v. So when you are in 2D space, we call these axes u and v to distinguish them from x, epsilon, and z. And this is going to be a really important part because this is your texture space or your UV mapping space where you see the mapping on the objects. If the object don't have the mapping, well, it's more complex. So make sure that the object you import has that mapping information within, and uh, preferably it should have like already materials and textures. So in this video, I'm going to show you an example of this. Now, before we move on, we said that we can check other shortcut keys. If we hold the control, we can see the shortcut keys for the control, the shift for the shift, the alt for the alt, and then also other key shortcut keys and keys related to the keyboard. We can see them here in edit and settings. So you can change the language from here, but if you go down, you can also change a little bit more the navigation. If you go here, you can change the navigation speed, the zoom speed, the wheel speed, and you can customize also the shortcut keys right here. So for example, if I want to change here the display material, instead of using the M, if I click here, I want to modify this, I can use like the D key. And what it's telling me here is that probably this is overriding another key. So be careful because yeah, that's gonna be like the lazy mouse. So you may want to change that into something else. So let's like use the epsilon. And again, this is used by another. So probably they are all assigned. So you should find something like more complex like Control M, or yeah, you see this is free. So you can adjust this however you want if you want to customize it. And if you think you mess up everything, you can always go all the way down here and just reset everything to the default. So everything will be as like, you know, it's set by the initial settings of the software. And also down here you have libraries. Now libraries are pretty important, and you have your own assets library and the starter assets library, which is the one that you see right here. So using a starter kit is really important because you have like predefined settings and you don't want to like change them later. And so they're gonna help you to start somewhere. So let me just go outside here, the preferences, go back in the software. So these are the libraries. And by the way, if you want like larger samples here to see more closely and better the material, you can change the dimension from here. So you can make it really small so you can see them, all of them. You can make this medium or large, or you can use a list also with the name. And you can also search with the name. So if I'm searching for like metal, so I can type metal, and you can see now I'm filtering the search with the only with the metal materials. And if I want to change this, I can just click and drag and change that into the object and into the mesh, as we already saw also in the previous video. And this is going to create another layer. So we're going to talk about all these passages better later on. But what I want to focus on is that Substance Painter uses PBR materials. Now, PBR material is a material that it behaves like in reality. So it's a physically based render material. And a lot of render engines out there, a lot of software, 3D software, they use this new, well, it's not new anymore. It just came out a lot of years ago. But before that, we used different types of materials, which were more like simulating and not being really realistic in a way. So if you want to know more, you can just investigate more here. But you see that probably other render engine they use PBR materials, they just use like different names or different settings. And a material is basically a combination of various maps, and each map represents a particular effect, like superficial 3D effect or glossiness or roughness and so on. But again, we're gonna investigate more on this later on. And so now all you need to know is that the software here is using PBR materials, which are more realistic and they are physically accurate materials. Now, let me just go back to Substance, and I'm gonna click on the X just to get outside that search filter so we can see everything. Now, these are all the libraries at your disposal at the moment. So if you click here, you can also see what are the libraries of this particular project. And you can see there's nothing here at the moment. Just a texture here. And also you can see the starter assets. And for the starter assets, you have a lot of assets right here, not only materials. So you also have like smart materials, and then you have masks. So these are to create like the worn edges or like dirt or noise on your model. And these are just samples right here that refer to the head here of the character. And then you have filters, like in Photoshop, for example. So you can apply like a blur effect or something like that. And then you have the brushes. You can see these are like related to Photoshop ABR brush types. And you'll find Photoshop video course in the channel if you're interested in painting. You can also do 3D painting in Photoshop, by the way. So you have a lot of asset here talking about brushes. And also you have alpha channels. Again, for those of you who don't know what an alpha channel is basically a fourth channel, and it's used in graphic design to have like transparency and opacity effect. So white is visible and black usually is invisible. So we have like a stencil effect using alpha channel. And then we have textures. So again, parts of the material that represent a particular effect, which could be an opacity effect, 3D effect, could be roughness, could be glossiness, could be metalness, and so on. And then we have environments, and these are used to create like a fake environment around our subject to make it look more realistic, especially in terms of reflections and transparencies. And then we have here, again, the changing of the size of the samples. So if you want to see better, you can like use the large. So we're gonna discover more about this later on, these assets. But if you don't have it, make sure that you have the right link in the settings. You probably want to have these starter assets at the beginning, just to go there and just play around with the various materials and see, how everything looks and feel in the software. You can see here that different parts of this model have different UV maps. So this one here has a different UV maps, and then you have the body and then the head. And we're gonna come back to this later. Now, what I wanna do is create a new file from scratch. So I don't wanna use the samples here. I wanna go for a new document. So not opening an existing one or recent or do any other of this, like saving and basic stuff. I wanna create a new one and import something. So I'm gonna go for new. And first of all, I want to decide a template here. Now, what is a template? It's basically, again, something that refers to a specific PBR setting. Like, for example, here we have a PBR metallic roughness starter assets. And then we have one for anisotropy and one for subsurface scattering. These are all different like types of material, whether you need to do like a metal or like skin or wax or a tissue fabric and so on. And these are also like other software like Blender, and then you have Keyshots, and then you have like Maxwell Render, and then let's see here, PBR again, glossiness, and Roblox, Unity, Unreal Engine, and V-Ray. So if you want to start using one of these starter assets, you can pick one of these. So let's go for Blender, and let me see where it was. There you go. So this is going to then be set for render. And then you can also change here if you want, like document resolution in terms of texture, and then you have the normal map format for the normals. And usually they come from the template. So if you change this, probably it's going to change. There you go. So you see this change now into DirectX. So depending on what you choose, it's going to like have some defined presets here for you. And well, if you want, you can go more into depth just by going into the eye. It's going to give you more information about these settings. And you can see that you can use UV tile workflows. You can use mapping and UVs. You can import cameras from the file. You can do the auto unwrap, which means that it's going to automatically define an unwrapping mapping in your object. If you go into options, you have more advanced options, like if you have some issues with the mapping that you are importing from your model, you can try to generate only the missing data or just recompute all. So it's gonna like recreate everything. It's gonna try to fix everything in terms of mapping for the application of the material onto the object. And again, if you're new and if you're a beginner, you probably don't know all of this stuff. So don't worry, you're gonna understand this better later. For the experts, you know what we are talking about. We are talking about mapping UV islands, which are parts of the mapping, and packing, so how you can pack the map. And also here you have other customization for the UV islands and UV tiles and so on. So, but this time we don't need all of this stuff. So let's just keep it as it is. And then also here, import baked maps if we have baked maps, and physical size if you want to change and define customize unit scale, or if you want to just adopt the unit scale of the mesh that we are importing. And color management also of the file, if you want to use here different color management. You can also see here again some more information if you want, like Adobe like preset if you want, and so on, or just standard or legacy. And also the color space right here. Now you can see the OK button is grayed out because of course we need to select a file we want to import. Now if you already work with Blender or another 3D software, you probably have like a bunch of files that you can bring in. But let's say that you are a beginner, you don't know how to create a 3D model. Well, in that case, you have like websites where you can get 3D models and assets. So I'm gonna show you just the first one in this video. And so I need to click here and I need to bring in something. I'm going to show you where to get it. In this case, it's called Polyhaven. This is the first website I want to show you. So let's get into the web and to search for Polyhaven. Now, Polyhaven has HDRIs, which are environments you can use, texture to use for your materials. Also, you have materials that are already preset for you. And then you have models, 3D models. So the 3D model also contains the materials and the texture. So if I go here, we can see there are a lot of 3D models. We can use the cat is right here. So you can use the concrete cat statue, or you can use something else if you want. So just, pick one and just go for that. And just gonna pick another one, a new one. So I'm gonna go for like this American football asset. So you can see here, we can see the polygons, we can see the materials applied. These are the textures that have been used. So the diffuse one is usually colored, and then you have like usually the roughness or the glossiness, which is black and white. And then we have the normal, usually is purple and green. So just select here the resolution you want to use. Let's go for 1K. And this is the order here, so you can also donate. You can like say tanks and so on. And here you can also choose different formats. So you have a Blender, if you're using Blender, and you find also courses in Blender in the channel if you're interested, among other 3D software for and also 2D software if you're interested. Now, in this case, I want to use the GLTF, which is an open source format. Like also GLB and GLTF are open sources format you can use in many software, including Blender. So if you're working with Blender, you can go for Blender. But right now, we need something that can be imported into Substance. So it could be GLTF, could be also FBX actually. But I'm going to go for GLTF in this video and then download the package. So I'm going to choose a folder. I already have a polyamen folder here. So I'm going to save this as a zip file. Once it's downloaded in the download folder in the folder that you chosen, you just go there and extract. So right click and extract everything. And there you go. So inside we will have a 3D file that you can also like see here in the preview in Windows. You can go into properties and see the format. You can see it's GLTF. And then you have another folder here for the texture. So these are the textures we downloaded. And usually they're going to go automatically inside the model that we're going to import. Otherwise, we need to build the material inside the software. But usually when we use GLTF, GLB, everything works also if you're using Blender. I just want to put this in polyamen folder that I'm using to save all of the files. And now all we need to go is go here and select the file. So American football, open. And now that we have a file selected together with the template and all the other settings, now we can go here and say, okay. And I want to discard the changes from the previous lesson. And there we go. So we have the ball here ready. So we can start to paint right away. And we are painting now on the original texture. So we are overriding here with the white paint, as we already started to do with the previous example. And so that's going to go like overriding the texture that are underneath, but we still see the normal effects right here and the 3D objects effects. So we can still, even if we're overriding, we can still see the effect that are underneath. This is the beauty of working with layers and working with the Substance Painter. So we're gonna stop here for this lesson, and we are gonna also see how we can export back this model and then use it again in Blender or a real engine once it's modified, once we applied all our painting and logos and whatever we want to apply on top of that. So we're gonna continue in the following video. So subscribe to stay updated. And if you want to thank us, support us, please join the channel as a supporter and check our other courses in Blender and Unreal and other software. And that's it. So see you in the next lesson.